Okay. I think we have a meeting quorum, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our June meeting of DNewTech. Ty and I don't quite have enough fingers and toes to count, but by our rough reckoning, this is our 35th meeting, and we have about 915 attendees so far. So thank you guys very much for supporting this effort to build a cohesive community around the Detroit metro area. I think everyone's familiar with our format. We'll have our keynote speaker, and then our 5 guest speakers, entrepreneurs here. Before we get started, I want to thank all of our sponsors that make this possible. Mid-Michigan Innovation Center, connecting entrepreneurs and businesses with resources to succeed up in Midland and Traverse City. Start Garden of Grand Rapids, a seed fund investing $5,000 in 2 ideas per week, moving from experiment to project to startup to conquering the world. Bizdom, both Detroit and Cleveland, incubator for IT-based companies, networking, nurturing, and growing. And through Dan Gilbert buying most of downtown. They just bought the building last week, as everyone read. So again, Ty and I between us don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many they've purchased. Quicken Loans, as I said last month, they're only the 3rd largest provider of residential loans in the USA. Honor, trust, commitment, those are their hallmarks. And of course, Atomic Object, our host for this evening. World-class software products driven by a unique culture which cares, and they prove it in everything they do. So thank all of our sponsors for supporting our activities.
You should probably give them the floor.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what we're looking for. Someone from Atomic Object to speak up. Please, go ahead.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a developer here at Atomic Object. We create custom web, mobile, and embedded software. We started in Grand Rapids, but we're excited to be here and open this new office here in Detroit. We started here about a year ago. So it's exciting to be part of the tech revival here in Detroit. We're about to host the DNewTech.
Can you tell about the Fridays? What do you, once a month you have an event here for Friday? What's it called?
Yes, we host Free Lunch Fridays. There's a Twitter feed that you can search for it, but we bring in some more food, everybody gets together and just chats. It's a lot of fun.
You get a really good sense of what's going on. You're not only talking about tech community, we talk about business community here when it comes to those Friday lunches, free Friday lunches.
Is this every Friday?
No, it's about once a month.
Last Friday of the month?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
They're supposed to keep it secret so that way not everyone comes.
Okay. But nothing is secret from this group. So, okay. Great. With that, let's go ahead and start with Jared Stasik. Jared is our keynote speaker. Jared is from Detroit Venture Partners, born and raised in Michigan. He's always had a fascination with the city of Detroit. Started getting involved, and he worked at Focus Hope, which most of us are familiar with as one of his summer jobs. After graduating from U of M, worked in Chicago for ZS Associates, doing biotech and pharmacy work consulting. Moved to Zurich, Switzerland, helped start their new European office over there, 2.5 years there. Authorities caught up with them, had to come back to the United States. Oh, that was a joke. Went to UC Berkeley for their MBA program, spent some time there with the tech community and VCs. He's been with Detroit Venture Partners for the last year, and with them he works on startups, financial modeling, and leads the firm's financial and fund operations. So Jared?
Yeah.
Come on up.
So with that said, I'll just take questions, I guess. Everything there's about me. So thanks everybody for taking a little bit of time to listen to me here. Tom invited me to come speak to this. I had a chance to meet him through the Live, Work, Launch Detroit project that happened 3 or 4 months ago. And Tom is pitching his company, so that was kind of how we came to meeting there. But yeah, so I work at Detroit Venture Partners, and just wanted to give you a little bit of background, I guess a little bit more background on myself and what Detroit Venture Partners does, what my role is at DVP, and happy to really just answer any questions for you guys. So for Detroit Venture Partners, has been around for about 2.5 years. It's a venture fund investing in early stage startup companies, technology companies only, software companies only really. So we don't really do anything with the physical hardware components. And you guys have probably heard of the general partners of the fund. Dan Gilbert is a well-known guy. As Milton mentioned, he's bought a few buildings in this area. I've actually never been in this building. It's probably because Dan doesn't own it. I only go to Dan owns actually. But this is actually really cool. I'm glad that this gave me a chance to kind of know Atomic Object and what goes on here, and hopefully we'll get to more of these events. But anyway, yeah, so I work with DVP. I've been here for about a year full time. Recently moved to Detroit, and I'm actually living in the city of Detroit. So I'm here, because I want to be here. I'm here because I think Detroit is awesome, and I think it's got huge potential. And so, to me, as I was moving back, I was in Berkeley, California, doing the MBA program there, and I moved back to Michigan and thinking, well, where do we want to live? And it just felt right for me to live in Detroit. So bought a house in the city, and I'm all in now. So I just had a baby here actually too, so I'm really all in. And she was born in the city of Detroit, so we're in it to win it here. And I think that's the exciting thing about DVP is that we're a venture capital fund, and obviously we want to make investments and return great returns for our investors. But at the same time, we're not a social fund. But everything that we do, in my opinion, in bringing companies to Detroit, kind of has this social benefit. So to me, that's really what drives me every day to want to go to work and actually make stuff happen. As Milton mentioned, I was consulting for a company before. It's called ZS Associates. It was a really good experience. It was a great company. I can't complain. They sent me abroad and had a phenomenal time there. But ultimately, I got to this point in my life where I would look at the senior partners in that firm and say, like, that's just not exactly what I want to do. So I want to do something that has more meaning, and I've, again, always had this kind of fascination and passion for Detroit, and so that's sort of what led me here. Within DVP, just to give you a sense for my role, so what Milton mentioned is that I kind of do the fund's financial and operation management, and so what that is, Detroit Venture Partners actually, up until recently, we've been funded through Dan Gilbert's and Josh Linkner and Brian Hermelin, the three general partners, but we're actually recently started raising outside capital for our fund as well. And to us, that's a great sign of growth for DVP. That it's not just Dan Gilbert putting in money. It's actually other people seeing the opportunity in Detroit and seeing the fact that there's huge talent here, sort of an untapped base for starting companies, and it's just a great place for companies to grow. So that to me is a lot of external validation, and so that's what I've been working on in trying to helping get other investors come into DVP as investors in our fund. And then on a day-to-day basis, I'm working with a lot of our portfolio companies. So we've made 18 investments in portfolio companies, and we've got a few investments pending that'll be closing in the next month or so. And so usually one of the first things that happens when we make an investment, or as we're looking to make an investment, is that company will send us their financials, and I'm sort of the guy who takes a deep dive look at the financials and helps them understand like the cash flow needs of the company, help project your revenue, project your costs, and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of my big roles within DVP is to help our companies understand financially where they stand and help them grow and really have a good fundraising plan for their next round of capital. So do you know any of the DVP portfolio companies? I imagine some of those guys have probably been at these events before, but I'll just maybe highlight a couple, and you're going to hear from one, actually our most recent portfolio company investment later on. In one of the I noticed it said 5 guest speakers and 1 awesome keynote speaker, so I think there's just a typo there. But 1 keynote speaker and then 5 awesome guest speakers, and one of them will be Damien or Brad, who's going to be pitching Grand Circus, which is the most recent DVP investment. But let me just highlight a couple other ones. So one of our first investments actually is called a company called Are You Human? These guys they're kind of set out on this mission to replace CAPTCHAs. And CAPTCHAs, if you're not aware, if you go try to buy tickets on Ticketmaster or just kind of a lot of transactions online, you have to type in those squiggly letters, and they're really annoying, and a lot of people go to these sites and they just actually can't get them right because the CAPTCHAs are so obnoxious. And so what Are You Human is doing is taking that annoying experience, which is bad for everybody. It's bad for the website that has it because people leave the website before completing the transaction. It's bad for the user because it's an awful thing to do. It's just like annoying and ugly. And then also they've turned that annoying experience into a revenue generating opportunity for the publisher for the website. And so what they're doing now is they're building up this huge base of websites that use CAPTCHA and saying, switch to Are You Human, switch to our product, which is called Playthrough. And Playthrough is a little game. So now instead of typing in these annoying letters, you actually get to play a little game, and then they build branding opportunities into those games. So an example could be, for Domino's Pizza, they could be an advertiser. And you'd see a box right here, and there's maybe like a pizza here and some toppings. There's like a pepperoni and a mushroom and a jackhammer and like a car floating around, and you have to grab the pepperoni and the mushroom and put them on the pizza instead of putting the car on the pizza. And so that's how you get through to the next screen that you want to get through. So that's one of our companies. They're having huge growth right now, kind of 10x their number of games served over the last couple of months, and they're just growing at an awesome rate and out there trying to get advertisers on board. So that's kind of one pitch for them. And the other pitch I'll give you right now is for a company called Up2. You guys should all put your phones out and download Up2. I won't be offended if you're looking at your phone, but Up2 is a really cool app, a social app that basically fills a gap in what other social media sites provide right now. So if you look at Facebook, you scroll down on Facebook, your feed, eventually you actually get to birth. There's like the little picture of you as an infant and in whatever year you were born, if you gave them that information. And so it's kind of like all the information about you going backwards in time on the timeline. And that's clearly the direction that Facebook wants to go, is backwards. They've just redesigned everything to be this whole timeline that goes backwards. And then, of course, there's Twitter, which is the most current source of information that you can possibly have. So it's the present, and everybody follows each other on Twitter, and you kind of see news in real time. So what Up2 does, it turns the future into a social opportunity. And it does that by overlaying your calendar and actually replacing your calendar in their newest release that's about to come out in a week or so. And so it can take all the individual events in my calendar and say, I've got a meeting with Brad and Damien about Grand Circus, and I can share that event so that anybody who I share that with can see that I'm meeting with Brad and Damien, and they can comment on the meeting, they can like the meeting, whatever, or they can see that, oh, Brad and Damien are meeting with Jared, maybe I should meet with them too, because they're just meeting at Buffalo Wild Wings or something. So it kind of encourages spontaneity, and then you can also follow events like the Detroit Tigers. If you go to any website or any organization online that has a calendar, has anyone ever actually opened the calendar page and then typed in all those events onto your calendar? It just doesn't happen. You wouldn't go to even the Detroit Lions. There's 8 games, and if I want to know when those games are, I'd have to type them into my calendar and put them physically in my calendar, my native calendar app. So with Up2, you can actually follow a stream, and you'll see in your stream that you now scroll down and you see the future instead of seeing the past. You see, oh, there's a Lions game this Sunday. Oh, there's a Lions game next Sunday, but down the road, whatever. And so you can see the events that are happening in the future. And then, of course, if you think about any given Saturday when there's a Lions game or a Tigers game going on, for businesses in the area to know that tens of thousands of people, potentially, or thousands of people are sharing that they're going to be downtown Detroit at the Tigers game, and I'm the Detroit Beer Company, I can know that those people are going to be there, and I can give offers to those people. So that's sort of the long-term view is that they're building this intent graph, which people self-report where they're going to be and when they're going to be there, and then of course it's valuable information for all kinds of parties. So those are 2 of the companies. Again, you're going to hear from a third company shortly here. But Ton asked me to give a couple pieces of advice in addition to just a little bit about my background in DVP. So advice for entrepreneurs. And who here actually is an entrepreneur? So I'm the only one who's not. Yes, awesome. I always, I feel bad because I work for the venture fund for DVP, but I've actually never been an entrepreneur. And sometimes I feel like that's it's a bad thing. I wish I had that experience. But what I do get to see is kind of a zoomed out view of a lot of entrepreneurs every day. And so with 18 portfolio companies, there's a lot that we can learn. There's a lot that I can learn and have learned from observing these companies and the mistakes that they make and all that. So let me just maybe call out a couple specific things that should be helpful hopefully for you as you're starting your businesses and growing your businesses. The first one I would say is that you can only really rely on your personal heroics for so long. At some point, you hit the wall of 24 hours in a day. And so we see a lot of companies where it's maybe the founder or the 2 founders working together, and it's just insane, right? These guys work like crazy, and that's kind of consumes them. And if you don't build your company with the intention that that's actually not how you want it to be, like you want to have a life as well, it can easily sort of spin out of control and to the point where you're the only person who can do pretty much everything in the company. And so just think kind of longer term as you're building your companies to make sure that your personal heroics don't become the bottleneck, because at some point you'll become the bottleneck for pretty much every single facet of your company. Second one that I wanted to mention was start thinking about your company culture early on, even if it's 2 or 3 or 4 people. We've got a great example of this in our building, in the Madison building. There's a company called Chalkfly, and these guys are just obsessed with culture. And it was 2 brothers who founded the company, and from before they hired a single employee, like they were just obsessed with culture. And they would go pitch their company, they pitched to us and said, "We're Chalkfly, we're obsessed with culture, and this is what we do." And so like be obsessed with culture and start setting the tone and doing events and treating your team well and just kind of all that stuff very early on, because once you sort of miss that, the ship has sailed. Like it's hard to redefine culture. You should really try to build it from the outset. Yeah, and lastly, I guess, just because I'm sort of the guy who will review a lot of financial models and things like that, I'll talk one point of financials, is that when you're pitching your business, I just see a lot of really bad projections. Like you see, no financial models ever right. No forecast that I've ever done or anyone has ever done has been exactly right. But you see a lot of really bad ones, and it's easy to look at this and clearly, like, if you're a domain expert in something, building a financial model is probably not the thing that you do. But go out and find somebody who can help you do that well, so that if you're looking to raise capital from an investor, when you give that investor your financial model, that's just a really obvious. It's just a really easy way to sort of take it and be like, this person's doesn't really have the business savvy, or didn't really make an extra effort to get the financials. They don't understand the financials, the capital requirements for the business. So even if you're not the finance guy, go find somebody who can help you do that before you make your pitch. A few pieces of advice, and I'm happy to take any questions if there's still time. Yeah.
Have any of your portfolio companies started generating a profit and return on investment yet?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of companies that we've invested in that are actually service companies, and they were profitable from day one. And in that model, that's kind of the service model sort of lends itself to that. So yes, they have. In terms of return on investment, we haven't actually exited any of our investments at this point, so we haven't sold any, so we haven't taken a return for our investors per se.
Has the appointment of Kevin Orr as emergency manager changed the way that you make your investments?
No.
What was the question, Joe?
He asked if the appointment of the emergency manager has changed anything that we do. I think it's interesting. I think Detroit is kind of this tale of two cities, and I've heard that phrase a few times now. I didn't make it up, but there's what's going on with the city government, which is obviously dire, and who knows if the city's going to be entering bankruptcy, and I don't know. It's just hard to tell. But with all that kind of negativity, the private sector is just booming. And with our partners, obviously with what Dan Gilbert's doing down here, not only in DVP, but with moving so many people down through Quicken Loans and all those other investments, and buying buildings and renovating buildings and creating more public spaces and stuff. Like the private sector is booming, and people are coming and noticing from all over the country. They're noticing what's going on in Detroit. So I think the news might pick up the negative side, but
I actually meant positive way.
Has it in the positive way? No, it hasn't changed anything. I mean, I don't think from the day that we've started investing, I don't think we've really ever sat down and said, no, what would the government think about this? Or like, how's the government going to impact this? No, I'm not. I mean, just saying like, it's just, the government hasn't been an impediment in any way. So it hasn't affected us negatively, but really we're making investments in tech companies just like, if it's in Detroit or if it's in Ann Arbor, if it's in Silicon Valley, like these are tech companies, they're growing companies with talented people, and it just really, hasn't really played into our thought process at all. Yeah.
Are you doing anything to attract businesses from outside the state into the state, like Sticks?
Yeah. So she asked if we're doing anything to attract businesses from outside into Detroit, and the company that she mentioned is called Stick.com. It's another one of our portfolio companies. These guys were from Michigan originally, and started the company in San Francisco and actually moved to Detroit to grow the company here. So they're now located in the Madison building. So, I mean, yeah, we are constantly networking, especially with people who have some Michigan ties, because I think that's probably the most likely groups to move back here. If I just cold email somebody off AngelList and say, hey, cool company, I saw you're from Honolulu or whatever, like, they're probably not going to move to Michigan. But if the guy is from Ann Arbor or he's from Michigan originally, or has some tie to the Midwest, then I think that we would have a shop potentially, and they would see a lot of value in Detroit. So yeah, we do actively try to bring companies here. Yeah.
My name is Matt Challen. I'm the founder of Own the Play. We're an online fantasy sports and casino distribution company.
Cool.
So naturally, my whole team's like, this is a perfect fit, you know? Let's say we're not, though, and you guys just don't like us for whatever reason. If we get to pitch you, who's your competitors that you think are good in the tri-state area?
In
Michigan, tri-state.
So actually, I don't want to say too much in the details of this, but the fact that Dan actually owns casinos and owns sports teams might be an impediment. I'm not sure.
It's not.
Because there's
It could
regulations.
be,
Okay.
10%.
Okay, gotcha.
You can't have, but whatever. So anyways,
Yeah.
sorry.
So who are the competitors? I mean, honestly, we don't view other VCs here as competitors to DVP at all, really. I mean, there's not been a single case where we've wanted to make an investment and somebody else has come in and said, here's better terms, and they've taken an investment from them. And we're looking to co-invest almost always. So really the question is, like, what are some alternatives, right? And I would say in Ann Arbor, there's a company called RPM. Mark Weiser's a partner in that firm, and RPM made some great investments in early stage tech. Star Garden really has started making, I think they started off making like smaller investments. I have a friend who actually got a bakery invested in by Star Garden, but now they're starting to do more, up to maybe 50 to 100,000 investments. So Star Garden would be one. There's Angel Networks around, other firms in Ann Arbor. I mean, I'm happy to talk offline about others too, but sure. Yeah. So you have to find the firm that's the right fit for you, right? Like, it's not every firm, not every like partner group looks for the same thing, and just because they invest in tech companies doesn't mean that they're going to be like a strategic fit for it. Yeah.
And some of the companies that you were looking at that have pitched you, have they all been revenue generating at that point, or
No.
have they been?
No, most of them aren't.
Most of them are not. Like any revenue period.
I mean, no, we invest early. Like our whole model is to invest early. We see investing early as an opportunity for us to help grow the team, to grow the business, and to help shape it. So, most companies that come to us are not generating revenue, and they're really working on that early sort of product market fit at the stage where they've got a product, it's starting to get some traction, and they've got ideas on how to monetize it, but they might not even want to start monetizing it yet because that could prevent growth. So, yeah, generally
a company
speaking,
that has like some traction, has revenue, would that actually be a better fit, or would actually not be?
I mean, we would never look at revenue and be like, ding, sorry. But no, I mean, revenue is great, obviously. But no, I would say that if there's not revenue, there's got to be some other form of traction, right? So if it's not revenue traction, then it's traction in that people really are embracing the product, and people are like, even if you haven't started monetizing it yet, people are sticking with the product. They're using it. They've got other positive metrics that are not revenue. I mean, revenue is sort of like the trailing indicator, right? So all these things have to happen before revenue happens. Like, the company's got to build a good product, they've got to have a good team, they've got to have a good culture, and then revenue comes. And so if you just look at revenue, like we would look at things that happen before revenue. So like, what's the usage of the product looking like, and are people using it, downloading it, and never opening the product again? If you're developing an app.
What type of assistance do you give for human resources or team building?
So we have a very, I would say, we try to have a very hands-on model. I'm laughing because, we're going, as we speak, like this, we're trying to help Grand Circus as they get like set up with benefits and set up with payroll and things like that. So, some of like the blocking and tackling stuff that companies maybe don't want to focus on, we try to be as helpful and supportive in any way that we can. What we're doing is, as we're growing a bigger and bigger portfolio, when we started off with like 3 or 4 companies, there's not as much sort of like leverage there, not as much synergy there. But now that we have 18 companies, it makes sense for us to sort of centralize several services and try to offer them to the companies. So so we can provide we can provide somebody who does recruiting across our companies, or somebody who does bookkeeping or benefits and payroll and that kind of thing across the company. So we can provide a lot of services that way. In terms of like team building and HR, I guess it's more personal relationships. I think if the team was having issues with any like specific HR type issues, they could come to us, and there's a lot of mentorship. I mean, these guys, you can go talk to Josh, and Josh Link there, our managing director, or Jake or Ted or any of the other DVP team, and will help through any issues. So it's a real like hands-on, close-knit group, and there's not necessarily formal processes set up for everything, but they know it's open door, and that's what works.
Okay. Oh, one more quickie.
Real quick. Most of what I hear you talk about is investing in technology, applications around your phone or on your desktop or whatever. You consider technology in areas that could transform an industry, say like energy? Well, it's not application oriented, but it can really transform a segment?
We look to just invest in software. So if there's a software component of a new energy product, that would be interesting to us. But yeah, just software. And the reason is just that we're investing very early. The amount of money that we're deploying into our companies to be impactful, it's got to be something that's really scalable. And software, obviously, with limited resources, you can touch the whole world with software.
Well, RingCatch, would be
that's an example of it's not a DVP company, but yeah, so they're doing alternative energy solutions. The company's called Greenlancer. It's a Bisdom company.
Okay. Before we thank Jared, I wanted to say elaborate upon two things you said. Slide over so we can both share them. Okay, perfect. Number one, you said you have to pick the right firm to talk to, because everyone has their specialization, and you're going to live with these people for forever, so you have to make sure you're comfortable with them. The other thought is, behind the scenes, all the VC firms are now talking with one another. When they originally started out, DVP was here, and Stark was here, and no one would talk. Well, now they're back channeling one another. You do the first phase, I'll come in the second phase, the third phase. So there's a huge network across the VCs, across the state, behind the scenes, where someone does the upfront work, and then someone else will come on for the follow-on investment. So it's becoming a really viable, vibrant community across the state. So
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, there's not that many VCs in Michigan. 29 firms. Yeah. They're probably not all having, I don't know how many have actually made an investment like in the last year, and how many of those are tech and software. Yeah, there's a Michigan Venture Capital Association puts out a report. It just came out maybe a couple weeks ago, and I think you can probably download it from their website. But what was in the Detroit News most likely came from that. I think I remember that number tweeted out.
Okay. Great. Thanks very much. Good feedback. Next up will be Benjamin Mitchell. You sort of find companies that get started because someone has a really great idea, and then there are other companies where someone was just so frustrated about something, said, I've got to find a solution to that. And Ben said he was out of state shopping for real estate in Michigan, found a great property for sale with a bid deadline of noon the next day. Needed a Michigan realtor, submit the paperwork, call the only one they knew. The person never returned the phone call. So they said, there are a large percentage of business people out there, self-employed professionals, small business owners, that don't have receptionists. Maybe I could do something to solve that problem. So Ben, come on up and talk about your solution. Great, thanks. Sure, good to see you. Sit a little bit further for the, perfect.
Right. Well, I was a little nervous when I got here, and then I had to follow an awesome keynote speaker and 4 more awesome speakers after me. So I'm just going to try to do the best I can.
Time up for 5 minutes.
Okay, all right, got it. So Milton told the story of how I came up with the idea for RingCatch. I missed out on this condo. I really wanted to live there. It was a great price, and I was out of state, so I couldn't do anything myself. I only knew one realtor because I hadn't been in Michigan for very long. So the genesis story for RingCatch. And RingCatch is a friendly voice answering your phone. It's a team of live, US-based receptionists who can provide over the phone answering, message taking, and appointment scheduling for small and medium-sized businesses and for the self-employed. I'll just make a little pointing. There we go. So, like the board says, there's a few issues with phone service in small businesses today. Often it's a pain point. You have to stop what you're doing to answer the phone if you're a solo professional. If you're a realtor, you got to stop selling homes. If you're practicing the law, it's not a billable task. So you're going to lose money if you're doing those things. In-house receptionists can be expensive. Often for 40 hours a week, just 4.3 weeks a month, that can be close to $3,000 a month. So if you're just getting off the ground, or if you're a one-person business, or if you're a self-employed professional, often you don't have the scale for that, and you can't afford it if you did. So the third point is customers love great customer service, and they hate bad customer service. One thing that we pride ourselves on at RingCatch is providing brand-building customer service, giving your customers what they want, making them happy. And it sounds really simple, but I found that it can often be profound. So we've got a few different target demographics that we came up with as to customer development. And the first is solo professionals. Often, like I said, they can't build these tasks when they answer the phone. It takes away from what they're doing. And what we can do is either give them a backstop service where they answer the phone within 2 rings, but if they don't, it comes to us. And then at least they have somebody answering that call, at least the person calling feels validated. We can also take over the reception tasks full service. But for SMBs, whether they have the scale or not for in-house, we can often do their receptionist service for less than the cost of what an in-house receptionist would cost. So if they need 20 hours a week, of course they would have to pay 40 hours a week for coverage. But if you're only using 20 hours a week, we can give you that service at a substantial discount of what it would cost to pay your own in-house receptionist. Another one that I've kind of found over the past few months, and I've never really even considered, is large salons. A really large salon will often have 2 or 3 receptionists at the front desk at all times. And that's enormous cost. And a lot of them will do what's called a call room. It's sort of like a captive call center. If they haven't yet gotten to that, and they're still at the point where they have 2 or 3 people crammed in the front desk, doing the in-person tasks, but also taking care of the phones, we can relieve them of the burden paying for one of those full-time receptionists, and we can do it at a discount. So we can save them money, and they buy a lot of minutes, so it's a good customer for us. And then also restaurants. This is the one I came up with in the past couple weeks, and we're really close to landing our first restaurant, especially if they have huge delivery and pickup volume. We can save them money versus an in-house employee and take what is a cluttering and cumbersome task, answering the phone in the kitchen, especially with the restaurant that we'll be working with, and we can take it out of house. Thanks. So current options, 2 minutes left, better just skip through this one. But our solution is, RingCatch saves time, it saves money, it increases business revenue by providing that high quality customer service, and at the same time, we can give them, if they're in an industry that's not really known for customer service like the law, we can give them a competitive advantage. So how do we make money? We bill in packets of minutes, and it's monthly recurring revenue. So you buy a packet of minutes, anywhere from 50 up until our largest is 1,800 minutes. So that was a custom package put together, but really any number of minutes that you need, we can do. And right now we have a live site, we have customers, we have people answering the phones. Started to develop sales and marketing. We're understanding what the pains are in the different industries. We're doing more customer development, and we've got a minimum viable product. In some form, we've got something out there. So more customer development is always a good thing, and that's what we're doing next. Needs in order for sure. Mentorship, especially in selling to small, medium-sized businesses in those channels, and expertise in targeting small, medium-sized businesses. So I'm all set and ready for questions.
Questions?
Do other companies know that it's your company answering the phone, or do they believe it's the company they think they're calling?
We make it seamless, and we make it as if it is in-house. There's really no reason that customer would benefit from the people calling knowing that they've outsourced that task. Especially how negative the connotation of the word outsourcing can have. It's out of house, but they don't really need to know that up front.
Two questions. So in terms of making it appear as if it's an in-house service, you use like some level of scripting or something that you could discuss with your customers?
Yeah, what happens is you take your number and you point it to a local number we'll give you, so there's no long distance charges, and it goes into our system. And whoever's available to answer your call, like a little pop-up when it comes in, and it has your business's information, specifics that you'd want to know about the caller, that you'd want the caller to know, and a little bit of stuff that would help with branding, so we can represent your customers the way that you want us to.
And my second question was I said I had two. So you offer your services in packets of minutes, but if you don't use the packet that you pay for, can you roll that over to the next month, or how does that work?
What we've been doing so far is we were going to do it as if it's something that can roll over, but we've never really gotten to that point. Everyone's used at least what they've paid for. So most of the competitors do it. You buy the bucket of minutes, and once you've bought it, 100 minutes for March, your 100 minutes, you better use them because you bought them. But it's really something that I've kind of put off because it's never happened before. And I saw it.
Oh yeah. So what's your differentiator? There's a lot of companies that do this. There's Ruby Receptionist. There's a bunch of them that's out there. This has been around for a long time.
It's a great service, but they don't do appointment scheduling. So we do appointment scheduling. Sorry about that. If you use Google Calendar, if you use iCalendar, if you use a specialized software like in the salon industry, it's all desktop installed, so we had to get remote versions installed. We go an extra mile that Call Ruby would never come close to doing. We're personalized. We're the only one located in Michigan. Outside of Total Attorneys in Chicago that only works with attorneys, we're arguably the only Midwest-based virtual reception provider, so there's a local advantage too.
My girlfriend's an HBO film producer. She was saying, lower level agents who have to answer their own phone. I looked at all these websites right before I came here. Sure. So I just thought that would be a logical customer of yours. And there's so many of them.
And there's so many different niches, I think, that might benefit from it that sometimes it makes my head spin. And oftentimes I wish I just had more time to focus on who's going to be really the best customer. And over here.
How do you plan to scale?
Well, there is an HR element that a lot of, say, software companies don't have. Call center operations do get more efficient the larger they get, so there is an inherent scalability in it, but it's easy to scale, say, with software. There are increased costs that go along with that increased profitability.
When you sign up, do you have to use your phone number for your business now, or can you bring your own number, or how does that work?
Well, you can bring your number, we can give you a number, whatever you want to do. For example, if you're using your cell phone, it might not be conducive for you to transfer all calls. We could do a 2 second, the 2 or 3 ring delay where you answer any call for 2 seconds. If it's your mom, if it's your grandmother, and if it's business, you let us take it. Or you can do it in your number, but often businesses will have some form of a business phone line, and we can just take that number, point it right in the back.
What is the biggest reason that customers don't sign up with you?
If they don't have any form of receptionist so far, they see it as an increased cost versus a cost savings. Our best customer is somebody that we can save money rather than get them to spend more. So that's been a major inhibitor. Also, it does sound complicated, and I haven't quite honed the idea of explaining it simply.
Can you give me an example? So for mini, standard, double up, the type of business that would be on the mini plan, the type of business that would be on standard, the type of business that would be on double up?
So this was the only image I could get up here. I'm not very graphically inclined. On our website, we have packages ranging up to an enterprise one, and in an infinite amount of minutes as possible. The standard package, these are all really toe dips. It's just a way to get people in the door. Almost no one's going to use 50 minutes in a month. I mean, that's cheap phone calls to some people. There's almost no way, unless you have almost no phone traffic, you're going to get that to last a month.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering.
It's a way to get people to ease it in the door, because it's the kind of service, especially with it being monthly recurring revenue, that once you pay, momentum is carrying you forward, especially once you see the kind of good customer service we're going to give you. So just a way to get people.
So then what would the typical business, how many minutes is the typical business using?
Somewhere 500 to 600 for a small law firm, but up until our largest customer right now is 1,800 minutes.
1,800.
Okay, we need to stop.
Okay.
You'll be here through the...
I will be.
Okay, got some more questions after.
John's got my laptop, so.
Okay. Okay. Ebrahim is going to come up next. Ebrahim is a recent U of M grad, an aspiring entrepreneur who recently moved to the city of Detroit. Likes to keep himself busy juggling multiple projects, staying involved in arts, education, community building. He was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, and has spent summers backpacking. Sounds like a really rough life. South America, the Middle East, he's off to Europe this summer. Are you looking for a few people to carry your bags and go with you? Well, volunteer. Patronicity, thank you. Opens doors to make crowdfunding a community endeavor, as well as allowing for businesses and organizations to work in grassroots development and entrepreneurial projects. So come on over here, which is where the camera will be focusing. 5 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Milton and Tan, for giving us the opportunity. I'm Ebrahim with Patronicity. Patronicity is a local crowdfunding platform. And so, how many people are familiar with crowdfunding? Okay, great, more than usual. So crowdfunding, very simple. Get a bunch of people to fund a project. Taxes is a way of like age-old crowdfunding. Crowdfunding began about a couple years ago. Kickstarter is probably your most popular crowdfunding platform, and it specializes in only creative projects. It's a niche, just like Patronicity, which is localized projects. You have Indiegogo, which is also a very popular name out there, but that's any project on the across the board. So there's no filtration system. But crowdfunding has been rapidly, exponentially increasing. Its success has been found in Kickstarter alone. Starting in 2009, it had about $7 million in the first year. The next year, it was about up to $25 million in pledges. The year after that, it was about 125. Last year was about 300, and this year it's on its way to about $800 million in pledges a day. But Kickstarter brands itself on being very restrictive, so it picks very creative projects or creative projects only, and so its success is not only in the quantity of but the quality of the projects. I think last year or the year before that, 25 films in Sundance found funding in Kickstarter. So with Patronicity being a local, hyper-local platform, we look to be able to translate the money that's being invested into creative projects into investments that are within the city, community building projects, local parks, business entrepreneurs, small startups, anything that people are looking for tangible items, a goal, an event. Next Urban Chef was a project that we did, but something that's local, kind of to build a vibrant city. I grew up where I went to school in Ann Arbor, and it's a vibrant city. There's always stuff going on. There's people on the streets, there's people coming out. There's no food trucks like there are downtown, but there's a lot of people out there. And so even with one of our latest projects, which is going to be a food truck coming up, a smoothie food truck, we want to have that culture of people supporting local, coming to a local thing, and getting their rewards from a lot of the campaigns at a local event where they can be a part of the community. We'll go. This is a kind of a website preview, very similar to a lot of other campaigns. But we have two things that make ourselves a little different from Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And those are community pages and sponsors, which I'm going to go into. This is very similar to all the Kickstarter pages, same thing. So Kickstarter has this type of model, or most crowdfunding campaigns, where you have one person, a project creator, like an artist, and he reaches out to his fans, his family, his friends to support him. With local businesses, a lot of times that network is much smaller. So what we look towards is to build a larger network in terms of marketing and in terms of where you're going to find your funding. 50% of your funding for most campaigns come from the lower end donations, and 50% come from high donations. The access to the high donations is sometimes difficult with small business opportunities or small business endeavors. And these are little things like food carts or software to get their business to the next level. Anything that's tangible that people can buy into. And the average cost for a lot of the, or the average goals range between $2,000 and $10,000 for campaigns. So sponsors and communities are two things that we start with that we really feel is driving its success. So communities can be just organizations based that people can attribute themselves to, like DHive or Detroit Nation, which is a community of expats, where the project creator can go to them and use them to expand the marketing. DHive is shooting out a Facebook blast, putting our projects in their networks or their newsletters, so it's expanding the project's reach. Sponsors are another aspect which we're really trying to focus, where organizations like Skillman, Hamtramck City Council, Fifth Third Bank, or banks have the CRA, which is Community Reinvestment Acts, or Knight Foundation. A lot of them have funding grant opportunities where they need, or the requirement is matching funds. We have a matching funds component built into the site, so sponsors can find their way into allowing a project to find or raise their matching funds, kind of giving them the community acceptance, and then go on to kind of finish the matching grants. And I think that's my time, and that's pretty much it. It's a sample project we had and last slide. So that's our ask. Any questions?
So what's your ask?
So our ask, we're always looking for projects and patrons. Continuing to build the project base. We want to have a lot of projects because that's kind of where the volume comes in, and the people to support it. Detroit has that community and that it's on that tipping point. There's a lot of people who just believe in Detroit, believe in people and entrepreneurs, and they want to share in, like, the success. We're also looking for partners, for sponsors and communities. We're looking for a PHP developer. So that's kind of the main things that we're looking for right now. Anything else? Yeah.
Oh yeah, could you elaborate again on the types of projects?
Great, yeah, so we have projects ranging from causes. There was a family's house in Southwest that got burned down. One of the teachers at a local school did a fundraiser to just give back to that family. Another project, some of the bigger projects that we want to focus on are small, like people who are baking out of their homes or getting commercial kitchens. They're trying to expand their business, take it to the next step. Looking for a food cart, something that's a small tangible item that they need to fundraise for, that they can give back to the community in like rewards. It's very similar to the other crowdfunding systems. And then we also do organize events. The Belle Isle Disc Golf Tournament is doing a campaign as well. Anything that's community involved and wants and that needs money to fundraise. But crowdfunding is much of a publicity campaign as it is a funding campaign. So a lot of companies are looking towards, hey, this is a 1 month thing where there's a lot of hype behind it. There's a lot of media attention behind it. We work with NPR. We have a couple connects that we're trying to build within Fox 2 and news stations that want to pick up stories that have that good feeling appeal. Detroit Synagogue, great story. It was on Indiegogo, very successful. But similar things like that, exactly, just something that's local that people can feel a part of.
How do you make money?
Pardon?
How do you make money?
So we take about 10% from what is raised. We are also a partial funding model, so even if they don't raise the total like Kickstarter, they still get what they raise. We want to switch over to full fund, like all or nothing. We're on the way. It tends to be 8 times more successful. But yeah, we just take a cut for our services and a hands-on approach. Yeah, Ben.
And you also help with consulting and putting together what...
Yeah, so a big part of the thing is telling someone's story. A lot of the small businesses have a story, and I'm done after this. A lot of people have a story to tell. They're small businesses, they have something, they want to get to the next level. Someone mentioned Maria's Salsa that was at Whole Foods. She's doing a campaign with us. So they have a great story to tell, and they want to get it out there, and they want the publicity, and they obviously need a little bit of money. But it's nothing, like, people come to us and want to raise $50,000, $100,000. That's not happening. That's where we see, Detroit Venture Partners. Hopefully get Instagram, yes.
Are you thinking of doing this in other cities?
Yeah, that's the goal. So right now we're building just localized projects for Detroit. We want to move on to cities like Cleveland and Baltimore, places where a little bit of money can go a long way, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial efforts, very small entrepreneurial efforts where people just need the extra one step. And it all comes down to their network, how much they can reach out to. But that's the goal, to make it the localized city platform for communities, really focusing on the sponsors. There's so much money that banks are required to invest into the city, into the communities. There's matching grant opportunities, and we're trying to be that platform for a lot of those organizations to stream projects into, or stream them, like the matching funds grant into that. Anything else? Yeah.
Since you're not going to be as familiar yourself with 15 other cities, are you thinking of kind of franchising your idea to other people in other cities?
Right now, we want to be able to kind of get the ground base here, and then establish small teams in different places that'll work on the ground as well in those cities. Crowdfunding is not very difficult. It's like riding a bike, but if the first time you did it, you're probably gonna fall off. Once you figure it out, it's really easy to go. So like we have our interns who are, it's the first week here, Hazel and Zainab. You guys can welcome them. But we're really happy to have them. And so like it's very easy to crowdfund. So we want to be able to train people, even like college students can learn how to do it, and start as like a part-time thing where they can have that local, they can be local in their communities, and continue to like build it from like the franchise, like little branches where we establish. It's kind of fun. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Signal. Okay. Bradley started out interesting. He used to clean dirt. Not quite eating dirt, but he used to clean dirt. He was an environmental engineer that cleaned up contaminated soil and groundwater. When he wasn't doing that, he was spending his time playing an instrument on the Kennedy Center stage, and he's actually driven in a vice presidential motorcade. That would be really interesting. A little bit of background, he's originally from Michigan, was an expat for about 13 years, just came back here recently and found Grand Circus. Background's in engineering, talked about cleaning up the soil and whatnot. After business school, he worked as a management consultant, where he worked in a number of different lines of business, including a new ERP solution for a cat dealership. So that would be really good. He's actually featured in The Economist. So all that is great background to what he's doing now, somehow, some way, with Grand Circus. So Brad, come on up. Stand over here. You have the machine there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So just a quick question for you. How many people have heard of the Grand Circus before tonight and what was going to be rolled out with DNewTech? Okay, so at least a few people. So that's more than I thought. So that's great. So Grand Circus and DNewTech, it's actually a really perfect collaboration, because you think of DNewTech, you think about entrepreneurship, you think about tech, you think about Detroit. And really, that's what we're all about here at Grand Circus. So we think of ourselves as a community organization. And as part of the community, one of the biggest issues that we continue to see is talent. So I appreciate the lead-in with respect to needing a PHP developer. And so we're here to try to solve some of those issues with respect to talent, particularly focused around the tech community. So one of the biggest challenges we see in the state of Michigan, which by the way produces as many engineering grads every year from universities as any state around, is that the individuals leave the state of Michigan and go all around the United States to other places around the country. I admit I was part of the problem. I took my engineering degrees and went to Washington, D.C. and to Chicago for a while. And that's a big challenge for us. So we need to continue to develop the community, grow events just like this, where people are excited and are aware of what's happening in this great tech community here in Detroit. Another big challenge is the fact that there's a lot more demand for tech talent than there is supply. So in the news, it's really common to see, oh, the unemployment rate is really high in this area, but the reality is within 25 miles of Detroit, there's more than 2,000 job postings in the IT space. And these are the job postings, right? I mean, so working in the startup community, I can assure you that most of those, and I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, that most of the jobs are actually not posted. So what that number is really astonishing, and there's really a huge need for additional tech talent in the area. So what are the implications associated with not having the right tech talent? Whether it's an enterprise, small, medium business, or a startup, we see the same sort of problems. So projects that are deferred, they're understaffed, they're delivered on time, but just not on the quality that we need. And this really has a significant impact on the economy, right? Overall, in terms of what's happening. So again, we get to this huge recognition that there's a huge problem, and truly, at the end of the day, the problem is growth. So without the talent, which is our fuel, we're unable to grow the community and grow the ecosystem and really be able to grow the Detroit area. So this is clearly an area where there's a huge challenge. And so why is that? So we talked about colleges, we talked about some of the great universities that we know in our state, but if you step away from the norm of college, think about 4 years. 4 years is a long time. If you were to start college in the fall, you wouldn't graduate until 2017. So if you were to think about you can't enter the job market in 2017 right now, that's really significant. And the cost is around $100,000. So that's clearly an industry that's very ripe for disruption. Talk about private training business. There's a need for certifications, but that's not really what we're hearing that the market really needs. Middle school and high schools, the teachers are great, they just don't necessarily have the qualifications to be able to teach training and coding. So maybe we'll skip this in the interest of time here. I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about Grand Circus. So what is Grand Circus? Well, we teach tech, we teach coding, we teach entrepreneurship. We also have an awesome physical space that allows for co-working and events as well. So it's really a community space. We are a Detroit Venture Partners portfolio company, but we're much broader than that. We truly view ourselves as a community space. So I'll talk briefly about our training a little bit, and then we'll talk about our physical space. So we teach businesses, we teach entrepreneurs, we teach students. We're actually right now finishing up the very last class, which we have one of our students here, of iOS class, which is currently up and running under a different brand. We have 2 local Cass Tech students in there. We've done work with Cristo Ray, with Central Collegiate Academy, Cass Tech. We were actually talked about on Monday during the Cass Tech graduation by the principal. And so we have different offerings for these different segments. I'm happy to talk more about that. We're really focused on outcomes. So we're not here to say we're going to teach you a language. What we're here to say is we're going to teach you how to create and ship an app. Or we're here and we're going to talk to you about how you can get a job as perhaps a Salesforce developer. We're here to help you launch your first business website for those you may have a small business, but you don't actually have any tech background, you have a need to create that. So we're really focused on our outcomes. So we have long courses, which are 10 to 12 weeks, workshops, and seminars. So this is in large part what our offering is. And like I said, we also do have the co-working as well, and we have events that we can offer as well. And I'm happy to answer questions along any of those, but I want to be respectful of the time. Yes?
So do you provide like some of your graduates to like startups or placement startups?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So graduates of our program, we have hiring partners, and what they do is they're able to go into a 2-week internship. So our view is that it actually doesn't take that long for hiring companies to be able to tell whether someone's a great fit or not. And so we're continuing to work our hiring partner base. And so the graduates of our programs, of our long programs, the 10 to 12 weeks and even beyond that, are placed into these organizations.
Where's your co-working space located?
We are located, actually, I think it's the very next slide. If you want. But this is where we're located. The name of our company is Grand Circus. We overlook Grand Circus Park. We can't technically say our location yet, but it's very, very close to here, and it's a very well-known building. Yes?
Is your co-working packages 24-hour access to the people that are part of your co-working, or are they 9 to 6? What do you plan to provide?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's different models. So for those that have a reserved desks, so our permanent tenants, although it's on a monthly basis, they have round-the-clock access. If you want a space to rent on a daily basis, that's a 9 to 6 model.
Any other questions?
I really loved the outcome slide. I wasn't, sort of sold until I saw that, but that was just great. That's really neat.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that's one of the big focuses is we've seen too often, the old way of teaching is I'm going to stand up, I'm going to lecture you, and at the end of the day, hopefully you're going to absorb some of that. Whereas we want to flip that, where if you want to learn, there's great online resources. Excuse me, if you want to listen, there's a lot of great online resources. We really want to use classroom time to be engaged and make sure the classroom is learning and trying to create something where you have a very clear outcome at the end of the course. Okay.
What are your fees? How do the fees work?
I figured you guys might ask that. Yeah, absolutely. So for the classes, our long courses, which are around 60 hours, are around $3,500 per course. And then for workshops, which are more 1 to 2 day sessions, those are in the neighborhood of $200. It's going to depend on the individual course and the length of it. And then we'll have seminars, which are 1 to 3 hours, and those will be less expensive. Yes.
What type of courses have you been having in terms of development? Like what type of technologies are you right now teaching?
Yeah, great question. So right now we're currently running an iOS class, which again Jamel is in. And then in addition to that, we're going to be rolling out taking Salesforce developers from admins, which is light developers, to truly becoming developers. We'll roll out an Android course. This is all the fall curriculum that's starting in September. So you could become an Android developer, launch an Android app, a digital marketing immersive class, an entrepreneurial boot camp class as well. So those are the long classes, that line, and then we have a number of classes which I mentioned and you saw on the outcome slide, which are the workshops and the seminars.
Where are you finding your Socratic teachers and mentors?
Yeah, great question. It's a critical part of our business. So for the mobile, we have a partnership with Detroit Labs. So we've got the most important part of our business that touches all of our customers is at the end of the day our instructors. So our instructors are critical to our business. They need to be active practitioners and entrepreneurs, as opposed to someone that's been teaching SharePoint for the last 15 years. So we've got the partnership with Detroit Labs that allows us to do that. We also have a number of other instructors that we've talked with and that we'll be rolling out as well, that are entrepreneurs, that are active, practicing technologists. Yeah.
So when's the big reveal on Spice? Like when we know where it is?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is Damien Rocky, my co-founder. So I'm going to turn around and ask that question to him.
Soonish.
Soonish. There you go.
Do you have anything in analytics or big data, like R, teaching R, or like Hadoop or something like that?
So we don't have anything that we're rolling out in the fall of 2013, but that's certainly on our radar. So we've got a list of, think of it as a course catalog that we want to be rolling out. And I'd love to talk to you more about that, because that's certainly something that's on our radar, but we're not prepared to roll out in the short term.
That's it. Perfect. Talk about it later after we break that question. So great. Thank you very much. Next up will be Jeff from Reapso. Jeff was formerly a teacher, asking about teaching things, kind of a natural segue. He taught within the Archdiocese of Detroit schools, from the kindergarten level all the way up to high school AP Computer Science at Bishop Foley and Notre Dame Prep. Reapso was conceived as an idea because of the dissatisfaction with current deal delivery platforms. How many people here have ever clipped coupons? How many people think it's a pain in the butt? Yes, that's exactly what you're going to hear about, is how do you get away from that. So I'm going to stop right there and let Jeff come on up and talk about his technology and why it's the next great thing. So stand over here in line with the camera, 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and our founders couldn't be here today, so I'm taking over his slide deck. Go ahead next. So what Reapso does is we are an iOS platform deal delivery network. We work with small businesses and major brands, anywhere from a deli or a Coney Island, all the way to brands like Miller Coors and Brown-Forman, which is the maker of Southern Comfort, Jack Daniels, and so on. So what we do is our app allows you to, as you download the app, it's an iPhone, iPad app, you would play a game. As you play the game, you will win deals from businesses. What we have is a slot machine game. You get to rank the businesses that you want to receive deals from using gold, silver, bronze medals. And the algorithm is skewed to give you odds of those medal businesses giving you more deals. We allow people to blacklist any businesses that they do not want to be in the game. So if you send a business to the doghouse, there's a category on there that's called the doghouse, then you will not be in the game. So that you're basically, when you play the game, you're only getting deals from places that you want to go to. Now we want to help people engage with the app, because any app that is downloaded and put away does nobody any good. So we want folks to use it on a daily basis. So every day when you open the app, you get 10 coins, 10 tokens to play the slot machine game. You can save money. These discounts could be percentage off, dollar off, or even some rewards that are not monetary in nature. For example, you can get a tour of a brewery, a microbrewery with the owner for half an hour. So you learn what the process is about. So it's a rewarding experience, but it's not necessarily comes in dollars and cents. This is what the interface looks like. This app is live, and it's a free download, so you can go to the App Store to get a copy for yourself. We have a screen here that shows you two different segments. The merchant section allows you to win deals from businesses, and then we have a collectible section as well. This allows artists, people who draw, paint, takes nice photographs, to have a place to showcase their work and to get their artwork out there. The reason we have this section is so that this starving artist no longer is going to be starving. So there's a way for them to conduct transactions and commerce out of this section here. This is the coin that you will be able to use. There is a built-in QR scanner on here. Our technology is based on a smart tag. It's a variation of a traditional QR tag, where at the corner of it there's a peach, like what you see in the logo, a peach in the lower right-hand corner. These are some of the listings of our businesses that are on board. We are primarily in the Royal Oak area right now. We are slowly growing to the suburbs, but if you spend time in Royal Oak, it will be a good idea to have this app. So, being the fact that it's a smart QR tag, it can appear on a variety of different types of channels. We could have it on menus in the building itself. We could have it distributed through social media. It could be on table tents, napkins, newspaper, magazine ads, or even on TV. One of the things that we have realized is that the two founders and myself, the three of us, we've been pounding pavements. We want to make it work here in Michigan. We want to make it work here in Detroit. But it's not all rosy and peachy stories. We have a lot of challenges. We have a good number of user base, but they're not all very savvy tech adopters. We have a good number of businesses on board, but the small business owners spend 24/7 managing their business. They are not promoting and marketing and really pushing the idea of having a nice loyalty program like what our app does. There is a lot of venture capital discussions, but we are not really getting very far with that as well. So a lot of the funding we have are from family and friends, relatives, and so on. We are here today to get feedback, not so much to answer your questions, but to hear what comments you have on what we can do to be better from this point going forward. So after the meeting, I do have cards like this, app cards, that would allow you to go to participating bars and restaurants in Royal Oak and get $1 beer, $1 Jack Daniel shots, and so on. I also have stickers. So come by and see me. I'll give you guys a good deal to go out there and have a drink with your friends.
Okay. Thank you. Questions?
I guess in order to give an idea of how to help your business, how exactly do you guys make money?
When we deliver a deal, we collect a monthly fee from the merchant. So we would collect $25 from a merchant per month. And each deal that is redeemed, they pay us anywhere from $0.25 to $1.
I take it that human beings are involved in closing the sale and setting up the deal and everything. You have to have people in the loop. Can you get people out of the loop so you can sell anywhere, not just Royal Oak?
What we're trying to do is we're trying to have a very laser focused concentration on dense, walkable downtown areas. Hence the reason why we start with Royal Oak. We like, downtowns like Rochester. We like Detroit. So we would like to have the presence of Reapso within the city of Detroit, especially here in the central business district. We like places like Clarkston, and we like Ann Arbor. So we like to be a place where it's dense and walkable, so that it will propagate naturally. So that's the strategy.
Are you going to use service companies as well?
Yeah, we have attorneys, we have accountants, so those people are on board.
Who is your primary customer set?
We cater to both sides of the.
Who's your primary customers?
It will be the merchants, the business owners. Yes.
One idea off the top of my head to help you out would be to maybe do some revenue sharing or some type of a partnership with either a local radio or newspaper publication. Since they're already going to all of the accounts that you want to target, it would be another way for that sales rep to say, not only can I sell you this advertising, but I can offer you this coupon, and then you could advertise in their paper or on their radio station for downloading the actual app itself too.
Very good, thanks. Yes.
What's your current traction?
We have over 1,030 download installed user base. No advertising, basically just word of mouth. We launched in February of this year, so it's roughly been about 3 months, 4 months, and we have about close to between 40 to 50 businesses on the platform, primarily in Royal Oak. And we just recently signed on Brown-Forman, which is a national player. We have millpigs.com, which is an e-commerce site. So we are able to garner attention from both the small one mom and pop places, as well as e-commerce players, and also major brands. So it's pretty flexible in that sense.
Aren't there like similar things already out there? Competition?
Not specifically, the way the concept is. There are obviously a lot of daily deals out there. We know all the major daily deals platforms are. We know the Val packs out there. We know the Save on Everything, JB Dollar coupon books that are in your mailboxes, but not specifically like this.
So has your pain been getting businesses or getting users?
I would say we are pretty good with getting businesses because businesses see the low cost. $25 a month, it's not a bad deal. A quarter per redemption. Sometimes when somebody goes in to have dinner, even if just going in one person, you spend money on an entree and a beer, it's going to be $20, $30 right there. You go in with 2 or 3 people as a family, that's going to be a $40, $50 bill. A quarter take on that is nothing to them. User base is where I think our biggest challenge is. Engage users.
Is this only on the iPhone platform?
Yes, iPhone and iPad, iOS platform.
Okay, it's not on Android yet?
Not yet on Android. Yeah, we're building the Android version.
Yes. One other suggestion, maybe. Are you retargeting your customers online and through channels like Facebook to bring them back into your app?
Yeah, we have presence on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We also have a dedicated site, reaptech.com, that display individual cities that we have presence. And when you click on the city, you will see all the businesses on there where you can scan with your phone on your monitor and capture the specific deals that you actually want to use.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, and last but not least, we have Jesse Vollmar coming up. Jesse comes from the original entrepreneurial enterprise. He was a farmer. So he's actually a farmer turned hacker. He grew up in a family farm. He gravitated toward technology. Having said that, he's an entrepreneur at heart. They're hackers building software for farms. They started this business in January 2012 as part of the winter 2012 batch of Y Combinator in Silicon Valley. And California is not a good place to be to start a business. You have to come to Michigan. So on that note, Jesse, come on up.
Thanks. So yeah, like you said, we actually started the company out in Mountain View, California, but I'm pretty happy to say that we were able to move the business back here to Michigan. So we're actually in Ann Arbor right now. I am one of the founders. I have a co-founder that is the CTO, and we're about a 6-person full-time team with another 6 people that work with us part-time or as contractors. So I just want to tell you a little bit about our story and some of the really interesting challenges that are going on in farming. So this slide usually is just kind of like a joke. Like the farming, has been around for ages, and technology hasn't quite really penetrated this market yet. And so we have this unique overlap of the perspective. I grew up on a farm. This is my family's background. My family actively farms, and we have a deep connection to the industry. So the other, neat part about this is we're actually developers too. So we've seen both sides. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. And next one. Go ahead, flip the slide, thanks. So you might be wondering, what does technology look like on farms right now? There's some nifty things happening, like tractors that actually drive themselves. That's pretty cool. I actually got to do that for the first time in a few years. Just a couple months ago, jump in family's tractor that hit a button and drives itself. Another really interesting thing is the machinery is now starting to generate data. So there's sensors on the equipment. You can see how many seeds are going to the ground per acre, and then for harvesting the yield that's coming out of those fields. And that's been where most of the development lies. Before FarmLogs existed, we've left the industry to these big ag companies that are old and stagnant. John Deere's 100 years old, and they've been making software for about 20 years now, and every farmer that you talk to will tell you that they hate John Deere software. So what is everybody doing right now? They are literally using paper and spreadsheets to manage their businesses. That's not fair. We need to help farmers out and give them better technology. So next slide. You guys would probably like this. This is actually a satellite terminal that people subscribe to get weather data and market pricing. So just another example of kind of this, how technology just kind of overlooked farming. So what we're trying to do is fix that problem, right? We want to introduce good technology, stuff that you guys have been seen and used, in other industries all your life, just like I had when I left the farm. Go ahead and. So the core of this is helping them keep the records that they already have to track all this data that they're managing on paper and in spreadsheets in a SaaS application, web app, modern, friendly application. And also, mobile, right? So everybody now has a smartphone. They're out in the fields. They need to be able to keep track of what's happening in the fields on the go. Next slide, please. So we deliver that technology. And next slide. And here's where I wanted to show you a little bit of the app. Maybe we can, if we get through it quick enough, we can go to the website. But so this is more than just building an app, right? This is 36% of the world's workforce that is employed in agriculture. It's an industry that's been around for ages and needs technological innovation. So what we're trying to do is take this community of people that don't quite understand, how the internet can help them, and make it very clear to them how we can deliver value back to their industry and move them online. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit of our progress so far. We've got quite a few farms signed up here in the US, and interestingly enough, even though we do very little marketing outside the US, as you'll see in the next slide, we also have quite a few farms signing up from overseas. And keep flipping. So we think this is kind of the starting place, right? The first step in this is to build awareness that there is finally, something that can help farmers manage their business with technology. This is the platform, the foundation. So moving the community online is pretty exciting, but what you get now is data that is all currently trapped offline. We can't study it. We can't learn from farming. We can't make farming better without bringing this data into the cloud. So we actually just launched a really cool feature on Friday, at the field rainfall analysis. We're actually telling farmers how much rain each one of their individual fields has accumulated in the past 24 hours. So when they wake up in the morning, they don't have to drive out to those fields and find out which ones had rain. So it's right there, right? So just a few quick examples. And we're pretty much out of time, but we can go ahead and flip through. So, like I said, we've got about 6 full-time people and 12 that are 12 total, involved in the company. The company's growing really fast. We'd love if anybody is passionate about farming and would like to learn more about what we're doing. Come talk to us. Mainly, on the technical side is I think like everybody in the industry we're trying to hire. But yeah, now open up to questions.
What's your business?
So it's a SaaS product. We charge per acre. So the farm will just subscribe at either a monthly or an annual plan, 5 cents a month per acre or 50 cents per year. Average revenue per user is about $30. Here in the US, we see farms are typically about 675 acres, statistically based. The another really interesting thing is these are like family businesses that we're selling to. So it's a very personal thing to have to hand over money for this. We're not selling like enterprise deals. These aren't big, massive corporations that we're selling to. Yeah.
Which Y Combinator cohort were you in, and how did that experience affect your growth?
Sure. So, when we started this company, we decided this was an opportunity for us to make a really big impact in the world. And this was back in November of 2011 that we decided that this is what my co-founder and I wanted to do. And we applied to the winter 2012 batch of Y Combinator, and we're a part of that. We did that because we thought that was probably a really good way to accelerate the business, get some some additional support behind us from people who have done this, built scalable technology companies. It was a tremendous experience, absolutely worthwhile. It was really great to be a part of it. So winter 2012 was the cohort.
Have you received investment funds in the state of Michigan yet?
Yeah, so actually there's a fund in, we didn't end up working with RPM, who was mentioned, that's from Ann Arbor, but Huron River Ventures is a new fund. We really liked those guys. We thought they were better partners for us, and we ended up working with them. We got some money from Silicon Valley as well because we had a presence there. We try to stay plugged into the community, in both areas, Silicon Valley and Ann Arbor, in Southeast Michigan.
Huron River Ventures actually mentions you the forum we had at Next Energy a few months back.
First Step Fund is also, they're here, they're based out of Detroit, I believe, and they were also part of our last round of funding.
What about Open Prairie? It sounds more like you're like that.
Yeah, so we're at core, we're a technology company, and Open Prairie is interesting because they do a lot of agricultural investments, but they're very focused on agriculture. We're focused more on the technology aspect of the innovation aspect. Good.
Do you aggregate any of the data across all the users? For example, if somebody's crop fails somewhere and there's a surplus somewhere else, they can
Yes, that's where this starts to become really meaningful, is when we can study the data in aggregate, right? So we have to be very careful not to, violate the farm's privacy. So, of course it needs to be anonymous, but you're absolutely right. So our goal is to reach as many farms as possible, not necessarily to take a lot of money from just big farms. We want to be able to hit a critical mass where you can leverage that data to help those farmers make better decisions. Go right here.
I know with this industry, it's obviously, like you said, the technology in terms of getting them to understand technology first and foremost, and then from that, how it benefits their business. What has been your sales process in terms of getting their knowledge around technology? So I imagine you can go to a farmer, a guy saying, hey, look, I've been doing it this way for years, it's worked, business is still rocking, you know what, why do I need to switch over? What's been your sales process to convince them away from that inertia?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There are definitely people out there that are, stubborn, they're doing it their own way for years, they don't want to try anything, that's new. We have been very fortunate, and we recognize this is why we were drawn to this problem, is that there's actually a lot of people who are very passionate about wanting to get technology into their farm. Think about people, our age, right? This group, most people are very accustomed to technology. We've grown up with it, in our lives. And, if you were running a business, you wouldn't want to have to do it on spreadsheet paper. Probably many of you don't. So, people are finding us online because we're the leader in this space. If you search for farm management software, farm record keeping software, we're going to be, the top result there. So a lot of our business comes in organically through organic search. In the back.
I imagine there's a lot of different hardware where you would gather the data from. How do you decide which ones you want to integrate with, or?
Yeah, so right now what we do is there's actually a lot of manual user entry, and so we're working on doing more integration. We don't specifically integrate with hardware yet. There's an open source project with some guys in Purdue that is building a device that will break into that market where the proprietary machine data will now be able to flow, into the cloud. We funded that with them, and we're helping them out a little bit there. That's a very exciting thing, but. Just real quick, another interesting piece is we're taking lots of public data sets from the government that are available, like weather, and doing interesting things with it that we can correlate to their fields and their farm. We also pull in like I think it's 8 years of crop history on their fields from government sources. So, yeah,
great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, that officially wraps us up for the evening. Are there any announcements about upcoming events through June into July anyone wants to talk about?
June 18th in Lansing, GLEQ. To answer your question, where can you find venture capitalists, angels, everything else? This event brings them out like you wouldn't believe. So it's a good place to be, as well as you can present your stuff on tables. Take a look at the website, gleq.org.
This is the end of the GLEQ season. The first part is December, January, and then June is the second half of the year where they award the prizes and whatnot. It's a fantastic event that everyone shows up at in Lansing. Starts at 1 o'clock, ends at 8 o'clock on June 18th. Yes?
Yeah, my name is Ken Silver. I run a deal incubator through my law firm, Hurt Schramm, the first Tuesday of every month at 4 o'clock. All are welcome to attend. I can't tell you offhand what the first Tuesday of July is, but we get a lot of entrepreneurs, financiers, occasional investors, and it's a great place to hone your pitch and meet people with money.
What city?
In Bloomfield Hills, we run it.
Any other announcements?
Adrian Fortino out of the First Step Fund, he has mentioned that Detroit Technology Exchange is an event that's taking place on Thursday, June 27th. Basically, it's pretty awesome. It says 12 startup companies are going to be presenting to win a generous prize to help them brand their services. So it's a partnership between Bizdom, TechTown, Invest Detroit, and the Detroit Creative Corridor. So you guys have to register it. There's limited seatings.
course, DNewTech will be a week from Tuesday in Ann Arbor.
We will not be meeting in July, so we'll pick up our schedule again the first Wednesday of August. Any other announcements? Okay, well, thank you folks very much. I think all the presenters are still here, so mingle around, talk with them, and have a very oh, I forgot. Tan has 2.
I was at South by Southwest, grabbed a bunch of these books. I got 2 left. Anybody who wants them, they're basically Bob Dorff and Steve Blake's book on lean startup. It's a great book for anyone who wants to start it. Use it.
Are we going to do the 1-minute pitch and the audience votes? Sorry?
I said we make them learn it.
Yeah. So come on up, give us a 1-minute pitch about what you're doing and why you'll make the best use of this. Because we only have 2 and I saw 4 hands, so come on up. Go ahead.
Hi everybody, my name is Carl Lewis and I founded a company in March called Scriber. And what Scriber does is what we do legal productivity and document automation software, as well as lean case management solutions and IP monetization platforms, primarily targeted at lawyers, but anybody who needs documents, needs them done fast, can use it. The idea is to make solos and small law firms able to practice in areas outside of their areas, primarily because business is slow, if you hadn't noticed in the last couple of years. So that's my 1-minute pitch.
And your name is?
Carl Lewis.
Very good.
Hello and good evening. My name is Elizabeth Ham.
Yep, right there. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. My name is Elizabeth Hanna, and I'm the president and CEO of the International World Bird Center. And this is what I do. I repair and restore the faces of bird survivors. So one day, I'm going to be up here, and I'm going to do my presentation. But what I'm doing now is I am working on opening a facility here in Michigan. There's no facility anywhere in the United States that does what I do. And what I do is I can save the burn survivors. I can work on them like one session or for a matter of hours and sessions, and I can save them 20, 30, 40, 100 surgeries. So that's my pitch.
And your name again, guys?
My name is Elizabeth Hanna. If you would like to get in touch with me, I'm working on my website, but I have the easiest number in the world. It's 313-333-4444.
Anybody else?
No, they earned it.
I have a funny feeling one of the books just got claimed, but we still have a second one. So yes, we're not going to sway the audience at all. Stand over in the corner over there. You got it. Camera.
Hey, I'm John Callahan. I'm not doing anything. I don't want a book, but I do want a job. I just moved here. I was born and raised in Palo Alto. I used to work for a company called Green Plum, which is now part of EMC. I was an original sales team member. I won a Heavy Hitters Award, and I feel Detroit is at a tipping point, so I'm here to kind of stake my claim. Anyone interested? Easy, jcal3@yahoo.com.
What kind of job?
Business development sales. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm a little nervous, so would you say I support you? I support you. Thank you. So I'm Mike Wimberly. I'm the executive director of a grassroots organization that's dedicated to helping the community help itself. So we have a community center that has wireless fidelity for about a 1-mile radius. And our central premise is that everybody in our community has a calling or has a job or work written upon his or her heart. And so our challenge is to help the community manifest that gift that he or she has. So we've been working very hard to create what we call a grassroots cyber district. And we don't feel that our community has the prerequisite skills in math and science to do formatting or programming, but what it does have is skills in soft media. So we are trying to create businesses that focus on the community skills. So that'd be music, fashion, software that's into animation, that the community has an unfair advantage. So by getting
that
this,
was a great 1 minute pitch. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll do our community vote. So the first presenter stand up so everyone can look. Okay?
Are we voting?
Well, I was gonna have everyone recognize the faces again, and then we'll go back and say, you know, who we think. So, just because I'm really feeble-minded, and maybe it was Carl.
Just give it the first two.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, just give it to the first two. I don't care. Oh yeah, two.
Okay. Second presenter. First name again was?
Elizabeth Hannah. Two first names.
Third presenter was?
That was John Callahan, but I'm forfeiting the book for someone else.
Okay. And the fourth presenter was?
Mike Wimberly.
Okay, you have 3 books. So how many votes for your? Oh, I'm sorry, 2 books. 2 books, 3 people. I'm from MIT. Okay. Math challenge. You have to understand that. So now we're going to our voting for Carl to get a book. For Elizabeth to get a book. And for Mike. Okay, I think we have Carl and Elizabeth. Tons, I forget anything else? Okay, we are done. We'll turn off the camera and go ahead and mingle, and thank you all for coming out.